In 1982, three engineers sat down in a Houston pie shop called the House of Pies on Westheimer Road, and one of them sketched a computer on the back of a paper placemat. Each had put in $1,000. They had just quit their jobs. They had seriously considered opening a Mexican restaurant. Instead, they drew a machine that would break IBM's grip on the personal computer, generate $42 billion in annual revenue at its peak, and become the largest PC company on Earth. By 2002, Compaq was absorbed into Hewlett-Packard for $25 billion. By 2013, even the name was gone. This is how a placemat sketch built an empire, defeated a giant, and then disappeared. You're watching American Electronics and Tech Channel, where we take apart the companies that built the electronic world, down to the circuit board and the engineer who designed it. Compaq's rise is as fast as any in American business, and what killed it is the same force that made it. If that's your kind of story, subscribe and hit the like button, because what comes next moves fast. Rod Canyon was born in Houston in 1945, a quiet kid who spent his boyhood tinkering with hot rods before turning that same restless precision toward electrical engineering. He earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Houston in 1966 and his master's in 1968, both in electrical engineering with an emphasis on computer science, and went straight to work at Texas Instruments in Dallas. For more than a decade, Canyon, Jim Harris, and Bill Murdo built careers as senior managers at TI, designing semiconductors and computing hardware. By 1981, all three were frustrated with the company's direction and ready to leave. The timing was terrible and perfect at once. Houston's economy was collapsing as oil prices cratered, but something new had just arrived. In August of 1981, IBM introduced its first personal computer, and the industry forming around it was growing faster than anyone could track. The three engineers quit TI, sat down together, and talked about what to do next. They discussed a Mexican restaurant. They discussed a beeping device to help people find lost objects. Then, someone put a placemat on the table and started drawing. On February 16, 1982, Canyon, Harris, and Murdo each invested $1,000 and incorporated a company they called Gateway Technology in Harris County, Texas. The name would change. What mattered was the sketch, drawn over pie by Ted Papajohn, while dining with the founders, showing a portable computer that could run every piece of software written for the IBM PC. The idea was bold and the capital was thin, so they went looking for more. Ben Rosen, a former electronics engineer turned venture capitalist at Seven Rosen Partners, put up $2.5 million and became chairman of the board, a seat he would hold for 17 years. The mission was clear: build a machine that was 100% compatible with IBM. But one piece of IBM's architecture stood in the way, and it was protected by copyright law. IBM had built its PC from off-the-shelf parts and published full technical documentation. Microsoft retained the right to license its operating system to anyone who asked. Every component of the IBM PC could be legally replicated, except one. The BIOS, the basic input-output system that made the hardware talk to the software, was IBM's copyrighted code. Copy it, and IBM's lawyers would end you. Compaq spent $1 million on the solution. They called it the clean room. One team of engineers disassembled the IBM BIOS line by line, documenting every function, every interrupt, every timing sequence, translating code into pure specifications without ever showing the code itself to anyone else. A second team, walled off entirely, received only those specifications and wrote new code from scratch that produced identical behavior through completely different implementation. The process took 9 months. The lawyer's rule was absolute. The second team could never see a single line of IBM's original work. It was, as one engineer described it, like playing baseball blindfolded. IBM challenged the result. IBM lost. In November of 1982, Compaq announced the Compaq Portable. It shipped the following March at a price of $2,995 and it weighed 28 pounds. The company had projected $30 million in first-year sales. The actual number was $111 million, the highest first-year revenue of any startup in American business history, on 53,000 units shipped. The portable proved Compaq could match IBM. What came next proved it could lead. By mid-1986, Intel had released its 32-bit 80386 microprocessor, but IBM had shown no interest in using it. In January of that year, a Compaq engineer named Hugh Barnes came back from a meeting with Intel carrying a piece of intelligence that would reshape the entire PC industry. IBM, Barnes reported, was not planning a 386 machine. The prevailing theory was that a 386-based PC would cannibalize IBM's more profitable mid-range computer lines, and IBM was not willing to eat its own revenue. Rod Canyon picked up the phone and called Intel President Andy Grove directly, offering to build the first 386 personal computer in history. The project, codenamed Magnum, was led by Gary Stimac, Compaq's vice president of engineering and the company's 5th employee. Stimac assembled a team that grew to 250 people. Intel shared the first 386-block diagram in March of 1985. Compaq, Intel, and Microsoft signed a 3-way non-disclosure agreement and went to work in secret. On September 9, 1986, at the Palladium nightclub in New York City, Rod Canyon stood alongside Ben Rosen, Bill Gates, and Intel chairman Gordon Moore and announced the Desk Pro 386, the first personal computer in the world built around a 32-bit processor. The base model cost $6,499. In a single product launch, Compaq had done what no clone maker had ever done. It had updated a core component of the IBM PC standard without IBM's involvement. The imitator had become the architect. And buried in that triumph, visible only in hindsight, was a truth Compaq would one day learn the hard way. The standard is always bigger than the company. IBM responded in 1987 with the PS2 line and its proprietary microchannel architecture, a deliberate attempt to lock the clones out of the hardware bus and take the ecosystem back. Compaq fought. Canyon helped organize the Gang of Nine, a coalition of PC manufacturers who created the extended industry standard architecture bus in 1988. The open standard held. IBM's proprietary play failed. By then, the numbers spoke for themselves. Compaq hit $1 billion in revenue in 1987, the youngest company in American history to reach that mark. It entered the Fortune 500 in 1986, less than 4 years after incorporation, another record. The Desk Pro 386 captured 80% of all 386-based PCs sold through American dealers in its first full year. When IBM finally shipped its own 386 machine, 7 months after Compaq's launch, Compaq already held 28% of the 386 market. IBM had 16. The personal computer industry now answered to no single company. Compaq was at its center. And somewhere in Austin, Texas, a younger company called Dell was quietly building a business model that would make the dealer network obsolete. By 1994, Compaq had passed IBM as the #1 PC manufacturer on Earth. Revenue in 1996 hit $18.1 billion. The Houston campus sprawled across 80 acres north of the city, 15 office buildings, and 7 manufacturing plants, set among the forests along State Highway 249. No reserved parking for anyone, not even the CEO. Former employees called it the best place they ever worked. The Compaq Portable earned its place not through raw power, but through a principle: complete compatibility, proven in a clean room, at a time when every other clone maker was either cutting corners or getting sued. 28 pounds of suitcase-sized machine that let American workers carry their office from desk to desk. It was ungainly, it was heavy, and it ran everything IBM ran. It worked. The Desk Pro 386 earned its legend differently. Gary Stimac's team had chosen a static column DRAM design over 3 alternatives, rejected SCSI for performance reasons, and fit a 32-bit processor into an architecture originally built for 16 bits, with such precision that Microsoft developers began using the machine the day it shipped. 5 Compaq engineers engraved their initials into the Desk Pro 386's ROM, a quiet signature hidden inside the silicon that nobody outside the company would discover for years. Bill Gates later said that IBM did not trust the 386 chip, and that Microsoft had encouraged Compaq to build the machine without waiting. The Desk Pro 386 was not just a product. It was proof that the PC industry could set its own pace without permission from the company that started it. But the premium prices and the dealer-only sales model that built Compaq's fortune were already becoming a weight around its neck. Dell had figured out you could skip the dealer, sell direct, and pass the savings to the buyer. The reckoning was coming. October 25th, 1991. Compaq announced its first quarterly loss in history, $71 million gone. 1,400 workers laid off, the company's first layoffs ever. Rod Canyon put together an 18-month plan to develop a new line of low-cost PCs. What he did not know was that Ben Rosen, the chairman who had backed him from the first day, had already sent a separate team of Compaq engineers to Comdex without Canyon's knowledge. That team came back with a discovery that sealed Canyon's fate. A competitive low-cost machine could be built in half the time Canyon had proposed. Rosen called a board meeting that lasted 14 hours. The directors interviewed Eckhard Pfeiffer, Compaq's head of international operations, for several hours without informing Canyon. The vote to replace him was unanimous. 150 Compaq employees gathered in protest with handmade signs reading, "We love you, Rod." Someone took out a newspaper ad that said, "Rod, you are the wind beneath our wings." Canyon declined the offer to remain on the board. He did not speak to Rosen for years. You can read that decision 2 ways. The founder who built the company betrayed by the man who financed it, or a leader who could not let go of the engineering-first philosophy that had stopped working in a price-driven market. Years later, Canyon himself said he had been burned out, that he needed to leave. Honest history holds both readings at once. What is not ambiguous is what came next. Pfeiffer cut prices, slashed costs, and drove Compaq back to number 1 by 1994. The transformation was brutal and fast. Within 6 months of taking the CEO chair, Pfeiffer launched the ProLinea line, priced hundreds of dollars below anything Compaq had ever shipped. He gutted the premium-only pricing structure Rod Canyon had treated as gospel, and pushed Compaq machines into consumer electronics stores and warehouse clubs, where the company had never sold a single unit. Margins dropped, volume exploded. In 1993, Compaq shipped more personal computers than any company on Earth, including IBM. By 1994, the crown was official. Compaq was the world's largest PC manufacturer. The press called Pfeiffer a turnaround genius. Inside the company, not everyone agreed, but Pfeiffer was not satisfied with selling boxes. He wanted to build an enterprise computing empire that could compete with IBM and Hewlett-Packard in servers, services, and high-end infrastructure. The tool he chose was acquisition, and he swung it hard. Tandem Computers came first, bought in 1997 for $3 billion. Tandem made fault-tolerant servers, machines designed to never go down, used by banks, airlines, and stock exchanges worldwide. The technology was proven, the culture was different. Tandem engineers measured success in years of continuous uptime. Compaq engineers measured it in units shipped per quarter. Merging those mentalities was harder than merging 2 balance sheets. Then came the big one. Digital Equipment Corporation, bought in 1998 for $9.6 billion, the largest merger in computer industry history at the time. DEC was not a struggling startup being absorbed. It was a former titan with a legacy stretching back to the mini-computer revolution of the 1960s. Its engineers had created the Alpha processor, the VMS operating system, and Alta Vista, the search engine millions used before Google came along. By the late 90s, DEC had fallen far from its peak, but it still employed 53,000 people, nearly twice Compaq's headcount, and carried a product portfolio spanning dozens of countries, from chips to consulting. The complexity it brought was immense. The integration bled the company. Thousands of DEC employees were laid off in waves. Product lines were consolidated, canceled, or abandoned. The Alpha processor was phased out in favor of Intel's architecture. Alta Vista was neglected, starved of resources, and later sold for a fraction of its potential value. Engineering talent walked out the door. Managers spent their weeks in integration meetings instead of building products. The Houston campus that had once hummed with focus and singular purpose became a place of reorganization charts, competing priorities, and cultural friction. Two proud engineering cultures had been forced into one building, and neither recognized the company that came out the other side. Revenue peaked at $42 billion in the year 2000, a staggering number that masked how fragile the operation had become. Compaq was selling more than ever, but the cost of running a company that now spanned PCs, servers, fault-tolerant systems, consulting, and legacy mini-computer support was enormous. Then the ground gave way. The dot-com bubble burst. Corporate IT spending collapsed. The PC market entered a vicious price war that punished every manufacturer carrying high overhead. And through all of it, Dell kept growing. Dell overtook Compaq as the world's top PC seller in 1999 and again in 2001. Michael Dell had built his company on direct sales with no dealer markup, build-to-order manufacturing with no unsold inventory, and customer service that bypassed the middleman entirely. Dell could undercut Compaq on price, match it on specifications, and deliver a custom machine to a customer's door faster than Compaq could move a box through its dealer network. The channel that had once been Compaq's greatest weapon, the army of authorized resellers and retail partners Rod Canyon had courted so carefully, was now its heaviest anchor. Pfeiffer was fired in April 1999, the second CEO pushed out by Ben Rosen, the same board chairman who had removed Rod Canyon 8 years earlier. The venture capitalist who had written the company's very first check had now ended 2 leadership tenures from the same seat at the same table. Michael Capellas, a former Oracle executive, became the last person to hold the title of Compaq CEO. He inherited $42 billion in revenue, 70,000 employees, and no clear identity. Was Compaq a PC company, a server company, an enterprise services company, or all three at once? The market did not give him enough time to answer. On September 4th, 2001, 7 days before the attacks that would shake the American economy, Compaq signed a merger agreement with Hewlett-Packard valued at $25 billion. The timing was terrible. The tech sector was already in freefall. HP's CEO Carly Fiorina argued the merger would create a company capable of challenging IBM and Sun Microsystems across every segment of the technology market. Walter Hewlett, son of HP co-founder William Hewlett, launched a public campaign to block the deal, arguing that combining two struggling PC businesses would not produce a stronger company, just a bigger one with deeper problems. The proxy fight that followed was one of the most bitter in Silicon Valley history. The shareholder vote passed by the thinnest of margins, roughly 51% to 49%, shadowed by a conflict of interest scandal involving Deutsche Bank. On May 3, 2002, the merger closed. Compaq ceased to exist as an independent company. Its stock was delisted. Its headquarters campus on State Highway 249 became just another HP facility. The Compaq name lived on for a while, printed on HP's cheapest consumer laptops. A brand that had once meant engineering excellence, clean room integrity, and industry-defining innovation was stamped on budget hardware at clearance sales. In 2013, HP retired the name altogether, and the last visible trace of the company vanished from store shelves. A company that once generated $42 billion in annual revenue, acquired for $25 billion. Reduced to a label on discount machines, then erased entirely. The company is gone, but the standard it defended is everywhere. Every personal computer sold today runs on the open architecture that Compaq proved no single corporation could own. In 2012, Rod Canyon called a 30th anniversary company meeting, and nearly 1,000 former employees came. One of them shouted from the audience, "This company was like a family." Collectors still restore Compaq portables and Desk Pro 386 machines, keeping 40-year-old hardware alive because the engineering was built to last longer than the company that made it. There is still a paper placemat somewhere, or the memory of one, sketched over pie in a Houston restaurant in 1982. 3 engineers who almost opened a Mexican restaurant drew a computer on it instead, and from that drawing, they built the company that proved IBM's standard was bigger than IBM. They never considered that the same truth would one day apply to Compaq. If you used a Compaq, worked on one, or helped build one, drop a comment below. Tell us the model, the year, and whether it still powers on. That is the real archive, your stories, not ours. Subscribe if you want to keep going. We have the story of another American tech empire coming next, and you will not want to miss how it ends.